So I want to go back to 1971. It was a Milos Forman movie, Taking Off. And you have a scene in it where you're auditioning and you're singing a song, playing a guitar.
Well, they talked to me about it, and I chickened out because I didn't read music, and I just thought, nah. So there was such a personal song I wrote in the backyard swing, you know, by myself when I was 16, about loss of innocence. And
You wrote that song when you were 16? Mm-hmm.
I thought it worked out wonderfully the way it edited.
It did. It was a really nice scene.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't do anything at 16 that was lovely. So I'm curious, you're about 23 years old then. How did that 23-year-old, what were your plans? And what were your dreams then? Could you have imagined this?
Well, I couldn't have imagined any of this. And I was lucky to have friends from college who were a couple of years older than I, and they had an apartment, and some were going to Stratford, you know, to be in the Shakespeare Company, and so they had a free bedroom, and I went and stayed there, and I just tried to get jobs and plays, but it was always a catch-22.
In New York?
Yeah, in New York, because if if you weren't in the union, you couldn't go to union auditions, and you know, they had some off Broadway, which I was able to do, but look, I waited tables, and I ended up working at the Museum of Modern Art when they still took quarters and stuff to get in. So I had to count the quarters, and then they asked me if I wanted to become an accountant, and I went, oh, wrong turn. And I literally...
I love how they think just because you're counting quarters that your dream is to be an accountant. Right?
No,
yeah.
Well, I kind of liked it. You know, numbers are great. And I was really good on the adding machine.
So you're working in New York, you make straight time, but that does not instantly lead to a big Hollywood career. Mm-mm. So you go back to New York where...
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I was in my life at that time. What year was that? I can't remember.
That was 78. You're in New York in the 80s.
Okay, well by then I was starting I'm not sure if it was the same time that I came out to do test for Three's Company. Kind of the years get tumbled up there.
This is a piece of information I did not have.
You don't know?
No.
Okay. Well, at some point when I was out doing Vanities, we did it in New York in the 76, so it must have been 78. There was an A company that was with big stars, of course, at the Taper. And then we came in as the B company at the Getty, not Getty, what is the wonderful little theater that's over there? I was just there.
Here or New York?
Here.
Oh.
Anyway, shoot, things go right out of my head. If I get off the train, then I'm lost. Anyway, yeah, they were thinking of recasting a role in Three's Company. And so I went.
It was already on the air?
I don't know if they'd done the pilot or what. I didn't know how things were done, you know. I tell you, it's like my nieces. I think I got lost in the right direction. But so, you know, I spent the whole day basically, I mean, she was bent over and you were supposed to look through her legs and there was, you know, all this stuff and making sandwiches, and I just got home and like I said, when we first started talking, I was almost religious about my craft. And I thought, I don't know. And I was praying that I didn't get the part, that, you know, the phone.
Because you knew it would be too hard to turn down.
Yeah, no, I just thought, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And I didn't, you know, in the back of the head, I was thinking of Hobb, the guy that ran, you know, the theater company at SMU, and saying how long it would take. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew it wasn't soup yet. And I thought, I got to go back. I got to learn more. I can't, because it's gonna take me down the wrong path.
Did you audition with John Ritter?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't. No. I don't know who I auditioned with, but I just came back and I thought, this is not the part for me.
Because it's interesting if you had auditioned with John Ritter.
I know, because exactly, now I'm with Jason.
Now you're with Jason,
who's divine.
Yeah. So you didn't get the part on Three's Company.
Yeah.
I am so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I came back and I started. There was a Actors Theater of Louisville was really starting to But I think you're wanting me to answer another question.
No.
I'm jumping ahead.
No, actors too. I mean, I know because you did, was that where you did Nightmother, or was that where you did?
That was where I met Marcia Norman, and I met Susan Kingsley, who had done Getting Out. And actually, Nightmother was written for Susan.
But that's one of the plays you did, were very good in, right? It's a two-hander, right? And then Hollywood comes and they want to make a movie of it. They got the same director, right? And then Tom Moore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Sissy Spacek gets that part. Nothing against Sissy Spacek, but you were very honest in talking about that kind of thing happening to you, where somebody else gets the part that you had nurtured and crafted and created, that you were like, I'm doing all this work so that somebody else can come in and get the role like that. Let me read it to you, because I think that I like it.
Did I say something? Oh,
yeah,
God.
and it's not
Okay.
bad. It's not bad at all. I like it quite a bit. On my bad days, you said, I got tired of developing material for Sissy Spacek or any other star. I was starting to think, well, what am I up here busting my hump for while they're out there picking gardenias off the bushes?
Oh, God.
Let me see what I can do with this. And it was that manner of thinking that thought, I got to go myself.
Yes.
I got to go out there.
Yeah. And more than that, yes, I can't deny it. And I do have gardenias. But what I thought was a shame is that we had spent 2 years working on those roles. How fascinating it would have been to see that on film.
Yeah, right, with the work.
That was a great loss.
Right.
And I adored Anne Bancroft. In fact, when I wasn't nominated for Dolores Claiborne, she sent me the loveliest note. And she said, well, you didn't get an Oscar, but you got an Annie.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. Because Sissy Spacek had your role, and then Anne Bancroft had the other role.
Yeah, and nothing against both of them, and God rest Annie, but they didn't know country roads.
Yeah, it's different. You'd put
It was
that
different.
time. Yeah. But without that motivation, right? Maybe you're not out in Los Angeles in the late 1980s doing a play with Elizabeth McGovern, right?
Yep,
Who
we
had
did.
a boyfriend.
Oh my gosh, yes, we were out doing that. And honestly, the plays I'd done in New York were being done at the Taper. Frankie and Johnny, that I'd done in New York, Bill Goldman came to see.
Right.
And he writes about it in one of his books. And there's a scene where she opens her robe and lets him look at her bare, body. And he said this wonderful thing. He said that she was nervous and afraid, but she was hopeful.
Yeah.
It was that moment that Bill Goldman recommended me to Rob Reiner for Misery. So, but being out here, working with Elizabeth, that's also how I met Rob. He was in a relationship with her. He bought her a car. He sent her roses every night. And I was playing this role that Linda Hunt did brilliantly in New York and that I just massacred out here. And I think the only thing that he saw was probably an actress flailing about and, being insane or something. But, so I think between Bill Goldman and Elizabeth McGovern, I got the role.
He said you looked like a fan.
A fan.
Right, because in the play,
she's supposed to be,
a fan of who?
I can't remember. It's been so long.
I'll help you out here.
Help me out.
Henry Kissinger.
That's right.
Because you know what they
She
say
was
about Henry Kissinger?
obsessed by Henry Kissinger.
People may not like him, but everyone thinks he's sexy.
Is that what she says?
No, I made that up. That's absurd.
I don't know if that's.
I don't think that's.
I don't know if I'd take the number in his line.
So, but you still, even with the screenwriter William Goldman's recommendation, even with Rob Reiner seeing you, you still had to audition. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I went in and met with him, and that's when he ran Castle Rock pretty, it was his company. And I didn't know, again, about all that kind of stuff. Still don't know about all that business stuff. But, I read with him, and he gave me a few notes on things, and he said, I don't need to see anymore. And I think he called Andy in, was it Scheinman, who was his partner then? Mm-hmm. He called him in, and they said, yeah. So, and it was like, wow, I got this part, and I said, can I call my mother?
Again with calling your mother.
And
Does that make something real for you then? Like
I
if you
guess it did, you know, it was like I wanted to, you know what it was now, because I've evolved so much, and it all feeds in, you know, your background, your experiences inform your life experiences. Certainly, you know, coming from the family that you do, and I think part of me wanted to tell my mother it was worth it. She gave up her retirement because I was born so late in life to them. And I think part of me has always felt tremendously guilty about that. It wasn't my fault, I know that. But I think deep down inside, I always had regrets. And I've been very vocal about this, I've talked about it before. She was so smart, and one of the things she wanted to be was a lawyer. So I think about her a lot when I'm doing this part.
Do you remember her reaction to either getting Straight Time in 1978 or getting Misery in 1990?
I don't.
But you would have been happy.
I think she was proud. I think she was happy. When I won the Oscar for Misery, she said, I don't know what all the excitement about. You didn't discover the cure for cancer. So,
did that make you laugh, or did you
well,
think, oh,
I think it
come
was
on?
because I forgot to thank her that night. So, you know, it was tit for tat. But I think she was, I hope she was proud. But
By the way, you know, you did thank her. At the end of your speech, you thanked her.
I said, I don't
You
think-
said, I want to thank my mom and I want to thank my father.
No,
whatever it
I
is.
did
I
not.
hope he's watching.
I did not. You go back and look at it. I didn't.
And I would like to thank my family, my friends, my mom at home, and my dad, who I hope is watching somewhere.
What do you think of him?
Thank you. Why did I think I didn't thank her? Oh, what a relief.
Why does that mean so much to you?
Because she should have had my life. When she died, I said, come into me. I wanted her spirit to come into me. Even though we had so many difficulties, I wanted her spirit to come into me and enjoy everything I was enjoying because of what she'd given up. Wow, thank you so much for that.
How old was your mom when she had you?
41. My dad was born in 1900. My mom was born in 1907.
Yeah, it was very similar to my parents.
Yes.
So it's they were always important to you? They played a big role in your life?
They did in unexpected ways. I mean, they, at the time, and I always want to be very careful when I'm talking about it, because I realized that my sisters, who are still alive, knew very different people. Yeah. They were young, they were vibrant. My father was, you know, in the Naval Reserve during World War II. He was away, and it was hard for them, and the depression and giving up and rationing and all of the things that they had to do during the war, and how he taught himself engineering, and how when he pulled in the car, he'd wait at the bottom of the drive, and they'd run out in their nightgowns, and he'd let them hang onto the running boards, and he'd drive up the driveway. And I had some of that when I was young with him. You know, we went, when they would have a party, we would go, and I don't know where he went, where they had ice, like an ice place, because the water in Memphis was an aquifer, and the water was just, so we'd go, I must have been, I don't know, 7, 8 or something like that, and we'd go, and he'd put the ice in back on the floor, and he said, all right, how long can you hold your feet on it? I bet you can't hold it on. Or he taught me how to mow the lawn. I think I was the boy he'd always wanted. And my mother used to said, you know, when they found out I was a girl, they thought they were going to have to get a room at the hospital for him, because they thought at least if he had this third child, couldn't it have been a boy?
Get him one
So
boy.
I learned how to use tools, which has come in very handy. And so I had those years with them. But I also, as we grew older together, there was a lot of problems between us, and many times that's one of the powerful engines that drives my work. I don't want to go into specifics, but they did so much for me. My father literally had a heart attack after 2 or 3 years of giving up he had to spend a fortune that we didn't have sending me to Southern Methodist University, and went to work when he was in his 70s. And I was lucky that I was able to graduate earlier, and they did so much for me. They gave up so much. They gave up so much.
Well, that's what parents do. I mean, and they do it, I gotta say, they do it pretty willingly.
Well, I don't know. You know, I don't know if I could have. I mean, I remember my mother saying once to me, and I totally misunderstood it. She said, "You guys were so lucky to have the pill." And at first I thought it was because she wanted to have a lot of sex like we did. And I realized, no, she didn't want to have another kid.
Totally,
You
yeah,
know?
that's right.
So anyway.
Let me double back real quick. That's great stuff. Thank you. Misery. So Rob Reiner said that he knew after like one word of the audition. That it was
Really?
you. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like right away, he knew.
Wow.
Okay, this is it.
Wow.
And it helped that because they tried Bette Midler and it didn't work out for whatever reason. But William Goldman said, "Why don't we just go back to the person we had written for in the first place? Like, let's just go back to that Kathy Bates. That's what we should."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
The experience of shooting it, challenges. Some you a totally different style than James Caan.
Yeah, I loved Jimmy, but he was going through a rough time himself at the time, and without going into specifics, but
Oh, he wrote about it. We know. Yeah,
he was having some trouble,
Yeah.
with drugs at the time, and also I had just come from New York, really, so I was in my prime, and I'd come from doing Nightmother, so I knew the character really well, and I was just obsessed with it, and I kept trying to make it like the book, and finally Rob said to me, "We're not making the book, we're making a film." So I said, oh, okay. And I remember having troubles with Jimmy at first when we were just starting to rehearse. And I said, he's just not relating to me in the same way. And Rob was really smart. He said, she's having a relationship with who she thinks he is, who she wants him to be. And you're like this. It's a lie, I forgot exactly how he put it, but it was something that I understood and I was able to let go of and then just go with it. So I felt ready for the part. I was very dexterous. I was able to really be very nimble with that role.
And you turned this character, who could easily have been a caricature, right? I mean, she's violent, she's a psychopath, right? And she's still a psychopath, but you gave her this humanity. You said, like, Annie Wilkes is not a movie monster. She's a human being.
I always want to do that in my roles. They're always human beings, and none of us is perfect. Some of us are more imperfect than others, God knows. But certainly I wanted to give her, she was always reaching for something she couldn't have. She wanted to be a hero. She wanted to be a heroine. And I think that's why she was the angel of death. In some ways, she was being a heroine by sending these people off that she felt sorry for. It was totally misguided, of course. But she wanted to nurture people, take care of people, be worshipped, and just became totally obsessed with this guy. And I gotta tell you, I have that side to me. There are times when I see a musician or an actor or whatever, and I can become very obsessed. Not to the degree that she does, but I certainly know what that feels like. Or obsessed with things, like obsessed with a particular murder that's happened and the trial that's happening. I can understand those obsessions.
You had compassion for Annie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. And I think Bill did too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's written into the character.
Mm-hmm.
You said so many things that interested me so much. I don't care about anything having to do with how you've ever looked, but I want to read a quote to you because I'm curious about how because you clearly struggled with how to fit in this business. And
yeah,
you
in the
figured,
business and in clothes.
and 1991. So this is doing publicity for Misery. Or was Misery 1990 or 92?
1990.
1990. So, yeah, so you said in a New York Times piece back at that time, I've always had with weight. I'm not a stunning person. I want to give you at this point as I'm reading it, or that
please.
version. You know, I was never an ingenue. I've always been a character actor. When I was younger, it was a real problem because I was never pretty enough for the roles that other young women were being cast in. The roles I was lucky enough to get, you go on, were real stretches for me, usually a character who was older or a little weird. And it was hard, not just for the lack of work, but because you have to face up to how people are looking at you. And you think, well, you know, I'm a real person. Like, you hear that now. Does that remind you? Do you need any reminder of how not fitting in felt, even after winning an Oscar?
No, I don't. I still, you know, and it's only recently that I've solved that problem in my life and shed 100 pounds, and it's taken years to do it, and I did it with mindfulness on my own and with determination, and I was able to go to Armani and buy a gorgeous dress for the Emmys and walk out in a size 10 and pick out anything I wanted. And yeah, I was with a friend who had been there years ago with me, and I was barely able to fit into their largest sizes. And I came out, and we both almost burst into tears. And when I saw the photos from the red carpet on the Emmys, I see my face up. And this is my time. And there's still magic moments when I think, oh, it's so much easier to sit on a plane. Oh, it's so much easier to get to the set and walk around, and I don't have to sit down every 5 minutes. And so I'm just luxuriating in all of this. Or the other day, I think I was with Kim and Romy, who are my makeup artists, and they came in, and Beth, who's my driver, she said, "Isn't this your shirt?" And I said, "No, that can't be my shirt. It's too small. I think it's other," you know, so there's still some body stuff going on, but I don't know if that's what you're asking exactly. I felt I fit in the other night, definitely. But at least I still identify with that. I do, you know what it is? I look back at the photos, you know, because they have all these photos, and I look at myself, and it was during some years when I was in a relationship that I know how I should have been in. And I just really let myself go. It was after I had had breast cancer, and I look back on that, and I think, as I feel now, I think, how could you have done that? How could you have let yourself go like that? To have no self-esteem.
Well, that's what pains me, is no self-esteem. I mean, you're this magnificent artist, and you're beating yourself up about so many things. And I got it. Actors are often, right? You're sensitive. You got to be sensitive to be an actor in the first place. And sometimes that sensitivity will eat away at your self-esteem. But it's hard for me to read, because I don't want you to wonder about your worth ever.
Thank you. I think that's why the work was always the magic, the cloak.
You mentioned cancer. You had cancer twice, and one of them at a particularly low point when your legal show you were doing on TV, Harry's Law, I guess, canceled, and then right after that, you find out you have cancer for the second time. That must have been a particularly low.
Oh yeah,
moment in your
I
life.
thought that I was. I thought that my career was over.
Did you worry about your life? Did you think you?
Yeah, I worried about my life, and I knew it ran in my family. Although both my niece and I tested negative for the BRCA gene. We both, well, she hasn't had ovarian, but I've had both. And I know that they just haven't discovered all of the genetic, you know, attribute, and not attribute is the one. They haven't discovered all the genetic secrets behind breast cancer, or much less anything else. No, I really thought it was over. It was a tremendous disappointment, Harry's Law, and I just thought that was it. And not to get too graphic, but I was in a lot of pain, and I didn't realize and I didn't have so much pain with the ovarian, except for having to go through the chemo, which was difficult. I didn't have chemo with breast cancer, and I decided to have a double mastectomy just because I didn't want to be lopsided and have to go back in every 3 months and check and all of that stuff. So, but somehow they put drains in. You have to have drains, and somehow it must have been pressing on a nerve. And because I was in a lot of pain, and I was always fighting with my doctors to have more pain medication. But now that I'm doing this show about opioids, I understand why they were really fighting me on that.
Good. Yeah.
Because those were the years.
That's exactly when those were.
You know,
That's right.
and so they took good care of me. But when those drains came out, especially the one on the left, it was like, oh God, thank you, Jesus. You know, and you go ahead with your questions.
No,
I mean, there's so many stories I could tell you about cancer.
So but I mean, just psychologically, as a two-time cancer survivor, right? That has to inform a lot of how you go through the day, how you think about yourself.
Yeah, it is. I keep thinking, you know, if you get a twinge here, I talk to other women who've had cancer and saying, okay, does it hurt here where I'm hurting? You know, you get, oh yeah, I get that too. Or do you feel weird here? Does it itch and you can't? Oh yeah, I get that too. So, but I'm always checking. Or if I get weird feelings in my stomach, and you know, in fact, that's when I came back from Europe, I was having weird feelings in my stomach. I thought, oh, maybe it's the ovarian, but in fact, it was the breast. So I'm always, that's the wrong thing, Southern hyperbole. But on occasion, I think, oh, you know, am I gonna get this here, you know, or, but right now I'm just having so much fun. I never in a million years thought I would have this.
Our producer talked to a close friend of yours who said, in their estimation, that Kathy Bates has never been happier than she is right now.
Yes, that's true.
That's fair?
That's fair, more than fair.